Tottenham are in trouble. The London club currently find themselves in 14th place in the league, closer to relegation than they are the top of the table, and it seems like their long wait for a trophy is going to go on for longer. On top of that, despite early promise, Ange Postecoglou is struggling as Spurs boss, with an increasing disconnect between him and the fans, so it's time for someone else to take charge and win Spurs some trophies, and that man is gonna be me. And as a Chelsea fan, as much as it hurts me to say, Spurs do have some great foundations to build upon. Amazing facilities, one of the best stadiums in the world, and plenty of money in the club. And despite all the jokes aimed at the club, they do actually have plenty of trophies in their history, they just haven't won anything recently. Now, I've got 5 years as manager of Spurs in this save to try and win the Prem and the UCL, and to do so, I'm going to have to change a lot of the playing staff. According to FM, the club's best player is Heung-min Son, who's only been declining in recent years. Argentine defender Christian Romero is considered our best at the back, while Swedish midfielder Dejan Kulusevski is undoubtedly going to be crucial in everything that we do. So there are some good players at this club already, even if they aren't necessarily title challengers just yet, but there's some great young talent that really could go far already at the club. A recent signing from Leeds, Archie Gray, is a player that has the potential to be an England international. Young winger Mikey Moore is expected to be one of the most exciting players of his generation, and in Football Manager, Pape Sarr is expected to be an elite level midfielder. So it's not all doom and gloom, but being perfectly honest with the ambitions I've got here with Spurs, I think we're going to need a total overhaul as the years go by. But to do so, I've got to try and not get sacked. We should be okay though, with the team predicted to finish in 6th, a similar area to where the board want us to finish, so as long as we meet expectation, we should be okay and at least hang on for the first year. And while Spurs have spent the majority of this transfer budget already, there's still £5 million for me to play with if I want to bring some new players in the window, so I'm going to get started already, see who we can sign, see who we can sell, and hopefully start making a better Spurs side that can actually challenge for a title. And it might only be my first season here, but already I'm starting to make some changes to this squad that I'm hoping will benefit us down the line. I managed to shift 2 players on in the most recent window, the first of which was Sergio Reguilon, a player that many people forget is even still at Spurs after loans at Manchester United and Brentford. We've now loaned him to Roma for £2 million with a future fee for them of around 4 mil. The big sale though was not one I was expecting. Vicario is a keeper that in real life I think Spurs need to improve on, but in FM he was pretty good, at least for right now, until Al Hilal came in, offered him 900 grand a week, and of course he wanted to leave. They have bought him for a fee of 46 million, rising to 56. We've got good cash out of him, and that meant we could reinvest it on some new players. Of course, that meant we now needed a new number 1 goalkeeper, so I went to Real Madrid and bought in the 25-year-old Ukrainian international Andrei Lunin, who has always really been understudy to Courtois at Real Madrid, but has never really disappointed when given the opportunity. So to get him for £11 million, I think could be a steal. And then I spent £16 million on a new backup left back to deputise for Destiny Udogie when he is not available, and I've gone for Leif Davis of Ipswich. We paid a fee of £16 million for him, and I think he could be a great addition in our system, particularly where I'm looking to use some quite attacking fullbacks. And speaking of said system, now the transfers are done, let's take a look at who our best 11 is going into our first season before we really get stuck in and start making this team our own. In goal, our best option is of course going to be our new signing Lunin, with Pedro Porro expected to be our best in the right back slot, whilst Christian Romero is parted by Mickey van der Ven, the young Dutch defender in our team. At left back, supposedly Reguilon is the best, but clearly it's Destiny Udogie who can go right to the very top in that left back role. Yves Bissouma, formerly of Brighton, is in the midfield alongside Rodrigo Bentancur, and of course James Maddison, the former Leicester man who we've already staved off a bit of interest from Saudi Arabia. Kulusevski is supposedly our best on the left, whilst the game sees Son and Richarlison as our best forward line, but for me, I would like to see Son on the left and then likely Dominic Solanke taking up a place in the middle of the pitch. Despite not really being considered very good in Football Manager, he's the kind of striker I'm hoping we can build the team around, and that is our team ready to go in our first season. And with our transfers done, the game clearly doesn't rate them very highly, because after losing Vicario, the game now thinks we're going to finish in 7th place, 33 to 1 odd to win in the title, the same as Chelsea. We'll be hoping in our first season we can do a little bit better than that, try and secure some Europa League football at a minimum in our first year, and then from there we can get stuck in with the transfers and start really having a mass exodus and a mass incoming as we improve this team. But first, let's see if we can survive season 1. And I've got to say, our first season in charge has been hit and miss. Very stereotypically of Spurs, we had some highs and some lows. Our lows came in Europe, where we did not get far at all in the Europa League, but the highs came in the FA Cup, where we managed to make a semi-final. And we got a pretty favourable draw in the semi against Frank Lampard's Coventry, who in a tough battle, we managed to beat 3-2 in the 96th minute. That set up one final match to get our hands on our first bit of silverware already, up against Brighton, who went 1-0 up after 16. Now that would be typical Spurs fashion if we did eventually go on to just give the game away, but we managed to fight back, and with 30 minutes on the clock, Son got the goal, and in the second half we came out flying. With only a few minutes on it, Pedro Porro found Son again, whose shot bounced into Richarlison to score 2, and from there we really started to assert our domination. In a game where we amassed 5 XG, Mickey van der Ven found Pedro Porro for Richarlison's second of the game, before we sealed the deal late on. 94 minutes on the clock, Brennan Johnson into Heung-min Son to get us the win and get us our first trophy as Spurs manager in our first season. You see, it's not so hard, Spurs fans. Just employ a Chelsea fan and suddenly you'll start winning loads. No, of course not. This team was already set up to do very well, but we didn't exactly do great in the league. Because despite our ambitions of winning the title at some point in this rebuild, we are currently 39 points away from the 100-point champions in Liverpool. We finish in 8th spot with a Europa League finish only coming to us because of that FA Cup win, so we're very lucky we're even playing European football. 17 wins, 10 draws and 11 losses with 17 goal difference. It's not exactly pretty viewing. Like I say, very much hit and miss. Either we were smashing teams or we were getting smashed ourselves. So there's a lot of improvement to be done here at Spurs, and I don't quite think we're ready to go just yet on a title charge, but in terms of the top performers we can rely upon, it was quite surprising viewing, with Richarlison scoring 20 goals and having a very good year. James Maddison was also excellent with 10 goals. 2 players in real life haven't always performed for Spurs. Meanwhile, Pedro Porro, Basuma and Mickey van der Ven were our other best players, and Heung-min Son was excellent in front of the net with 23. But don't get attached to any of these guys. I am going to really start making my own mark on the club as soon as possible, and with a £62 million budget and 140 grand of wages, this is where the fun begins. I'm going to get some players out the door, get some new ones in, and hopefully make this team a title contender. Now, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think we have absolutely smashed this transfer window out the park with 3 elite signings to elevate our Spurs team to another level. If you are still watching the rebuild at this point though, I'd love it if you could smash the like button for me. Really helps the videos here on YouTube, and feel free to get involved in the comments and hit that subscribe button for weekly rebuilds on our way to 50k subs. But let's see firstly, before we see my 3 signings, who he sold. And there was quite a few players leaving. Firstly though, I got rid of those players that were a little bit surplus here at Spurs, with Brian Hill moving on to play for RB Leipzig for 6 million. Controversially, I have sold Lucas Bergvall, who I know can be great in real life, but in FM doesn't really ever go to the very top, so I've sold the Swedish 19-year-old to West Ham for 11 million after they came in with a 13 million pound potential offer. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg's move to Marseille was made permanent, not a transfer I was able to influence, but I would have sold him anyway. His loan deal was made official for 17 mil. But the 2 major sales came in the form of 2 of our best players. Firstly, Rodrigo Bentancur has moved to Al Ittihad on 825 grand a week. His contract was getting low, so when they came in for 40 million, I thought, you know what, we're going to have to take the deal. So the former Juve man moves on, and we make a nice bit of cash on him. But the big sale was Heung-min Son, who has gone to Al Hilal on a 1.5 million pound a week contract. Now, we did manage to extend his deal, but he only had a year left on it. So at that point, I felt with him being 33 and being one of our highest paid players, I thought we could get rid, and for 61 million with a year left at 33 years of age, I think we've done okay out of it. I've also loaned out a couple of our promising youngsters, with Luka Vuskovic, who could go to the top, going to Zagreb on loan. Wilson Odobert goes to Nantes, and Ashley Phillips will play a year on loan at Sunderland. But now we get into my 3, I think, very good signings for our side. Before we see them though, if you enjoyed this rebuild and you'd like to give it a go yourself, or you want to support me, the best place to do so is over on Patreon. Honestly, it really does help. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It really helps financially, particularly with the state of FM right now. So if if you're someone that wants to contribute and help support the videos, that's the best place to do it. Over there, obviously, yes, you support me, but in return, you get access to these rebuilds early. You get to watch them ad-free on Patreon. There's also polls to decide what rebuild you want to see next, as well as all the rebuild files for every rebuild we've ever done, so you can give the saves a go yourself and try and continue it after we're done, or do a better job than I can and jump in halfway. And we're also going to be doing some Patreon exclusive stuff going forward, so Q&As and whatnot, that kind of thing. If it sounds interesting, or you just want to help support me, I massively appreciate the 30 odd people that are already over there and supporting financially. So thank you guys, it really does mean a lot. But let's go and take a look at who we bought. A little bit of a bargain, we have signed the current African Player of the Year, Ademola Lookman, age 27, in his prime, coming in from Atalanta for I think a pretty good fee of 27 mil. Now, he wasn't really wanted there after a pretty poor season in game, and we've managed to get a good deal on a player that can play anywhere on that front line, and I think we'll have a point to prove back in the Prem. I felt like I wanted a proper out-and-out striker to build around alongside Solanke, and I've bought a young one in the form of Samu Omoroidian. Spurs, for too long, haven't always signed the best players, and I think this is one of those that all the clubs in Europe would have wanted, so to pick him up from Porto for 35 mil after a decent first year there, I think it's going to work out. I have big faith in this guy that he can be our new number 9. But for way more than either of those players, I have signed an elite midfielder in Martin Zubimendi of Real Sociedad. The Spanish international joins age 26 for 62 million. Our Bentancur replacement, he is going to be the cog in our midfield that we're going to build around. Some real elite Champions League European level quality coming into this team that I think can elevate us to a whole new dimension. Now, this might not work out and we might end up doing terribly this year, but looking at this team, I think it's much better suited to the players we've got. I've also adjusted one of the midfield roles slightly to try and get more out of that, but our best 11 now includes Lunin, who of course we signed, with a back four basically of what we initially inherited, with Zubimendi now at the base of the midfield, as Pat Mete Sarr becomes a key player alongside Madison, Kulusevski, and our two new boys in Lookman and Omoroidian, who I think really can make sure this team is elevated to a whole new level. Now, the board want us to qualify for the Europa League, which we of course are in after our FA Cup win, and the game now expects us to finish in 7th place. 25 to 1 odds of winning the league. It's probably not going to happen just yet, but the next step for me will be securing Champions League football, and that's the aim in Season 2. And this year, I feel like we managed to step our levels up an extra gear, as we managed to win some games that last season we definitely wouldn't have had. One great result was beating Chelsea and only allowing one shot on goal as we beat them 1-0. We also managed to secure victory against Man City, and we also managed to win the North London derby at home, beating Arsenal 1-0. And I've shown some good results there, but there were also some real blips in form that I think really curtailed our season and made sure that we didn't really achieve anything great. But with that being said, it was still a good year, because we have now qualified for the Champions League in our second season as Spurs manager. With only 5 losses all season, we really cut out some of the issues, especially when you see the teams we're losing to are pretty high quality sides. We drew 10 games, and that's our real issue. We need to be scoring a few more, but 79 points is a massive improvement, joint level with City in 3rd, and only now 9 points away from Liverpool, who once again win the division. Having signed Florian Wirtz, they're only getting better. As you can see, Samu had a great year for us as well, 19 goals in his first season, and it's good to see that we are making progress in an upwards direction. We're not going straight to any trophies just yet, but that was pretty good. In the Europa League, Roma beat us in the quarterfinal, and we got knocked out of the FA Cup and Carabao Cup respectively by Arsenal and Newcastle. There was a Community Shield win, but I do not class that as a real trophy, as we beat Liverpool 3-1, and now we're setting ourselves up pretty nicely, I think, going forward, with a young squad that's getting better, and a lot of our new players contributing and doing well in the team too. If we have a look, Samu was our best player by far, as I locked him in to play as many games as possible. Udogie and Madison were also excellent alongside Kulusevski and Kevin Danzo, surprisingly, who did pretty well for us. Now, I haven't mentioned him yet, but I did sign another player that I didn't talk about in the transfer window. It's Muric of Ipswich, who I know has been really error prone in real life, but in game he's a decent keeper, and when Ipswich went down last year we needed a backup and I picked him up for 9 mil. I forgot to mention him because he kind of flew under the radar as only a second choice goalie, but he is in the door, and now we head into our 3rd season with 56 million and 300 grand the wage budget. I think it's now about time as well that we can start introducing some of those younger talents into the team like Mikey Moore and Vuskovic, and hopefully we can start making this Spurs side a Champions League regular that can go far whilst competing as well for that Premier League title. But to do so, we need to get these transfers right. And it's been another eventful window here as Spurs manager. I haven't exactly gone for quantity, but we've gone for quality and signed a few players that have cost us over 100 million in total. A big window for Spurs with some big names leaving too. This one is a cracker. Firstly, leaving the club is Jed Spence. Now a Kenyan international, the 25-year-old has gone to play for Brentford for 4.5 mil. We managed to shift on Mana Solomon on a permanent deal, signing for Hoffenheim, age 27 for 6.5 million, having been loaned out recently. Richarlison also moves on in a permanent deal, signing for Bayer Leverkusen over in Germany. He's going to be playing there for a £14 million fee, potentially rising to 16, having only scored 2 goals last year. The big sale was Christian Romero. The Argentinian 28-year-old is a player that I admired quite a lot in our team, but wasn't necessarily playing great, and with a year left on his contract, it was time to sell him, and having not really got any good average match ratings or anything like that, 47 million from Barcelona with 1 year left is not a bad fee at all. Youngster Alfie Dorrington looks like he could be great, and he's gone out on loan to Millwall. And after a quick review, I've decided Vuskovic wasn't quite ready yet, so he's gone to Zagreb on loan, whilst Ashley Phillips will be playing his football at Fulham. But now we get on to the incomings. The cheapest of the lot was our new backup to Pedro Porro, Thiago Santos, a 24-year-old Portuguese right-back who we sign from Lille over in France for a fee of £15 million, 10 million more than what they paid from a couple seasons ago. He was outstanding in Ligue 1 last year, caught the eyes of our scouts, and he is now another young exciting player in this Spurs team. Romero leaving left a gap at centre-back alongside Mickey van der Ven, which Danzo Vuskovic and of course Dragusin will want to fill, but I think our new starter will be Jared Branthwaite, who we have signed from Everton for a fee of 38 million quid. I think he really is going to suit our Spurs team. Left-footed, 6'5". Yes, we have Mickey van der Ven as well, I'm aware of that, but I think them two together could be a very good partnership. Only pros in his coach report. We've got him for a good deal as well, and I'm delighted to have him on board. But then, one of my biggest ever signings in a rebuild, I have spent mega money on Yeremy Pino. I felt we needed a winger to kind of bring in that Son presence that we had lost. Lookman wasn't quite up to the task, and Villarreal had a great year last time with this guy being their main man. We paid £80 million, rising to 88 for what will hopefully be an elite Premier League player here at Tottenham Hotspur with plenty of Spain caps. Yeremy Pino is our new winger. And our squad, I think, is coming together really nicely now with a very good first 11, I think is Champions League quality, and then we've got some great players on the bench and the reserves that can always help us out when we need them, the likes of Brennan Johnson, Danzo, Gray, Thiago Santos, who we've just signed, Dragusin, Leif Davis, plenty of great talents around the club, but really, I'm very happy with this first 11 that we've built. That front three is now looking very exciting. The midfield three is strong as well. And that defence, as far as young defences go, there's probably not many better than this if we can get them working together, which is of course the big if here at Spurs. And in terms of the game itself, it feels like we've improved a little bit in terms of the odds, with it now being 18-1 chances of winning the title, but we're not exactly considered one of the best teams in the league, expected to finish in 7th place. Yeremy Pino though is seen as a big addition in the league and hopefully will help us out massively. So now we're ready to go in our 3rd year as Spurs manager. We've bought a lot of players, spent a lot of money. We need to get it right now. And in our 3rd season, we once again had the chance to win a domestic trophy. Not the FA Cup this time, but Spurs had the chance to win the Carabao Cup. And when we were drawn against former Spurs player Scott Parker's Burnley side, I thought we had a real chance against the Championship club in the final, but Manuel Benson put them 1-0 up. But this was a game we really should be winning, and after that initial shock and a half-time team talk, we managed to get back into it as Kulusevski rifled in a brilliant finish. Yet somehow, Burnley just would not give in, and unfortunately, in the 62nd minute, they took the lead again. Lyle Foster onto Benson to make it 2-1. And this will go down as one of the most embarrassing moments, I think, of any club's history in the Carabao Cup, but we managed to make it 2-2 as Kulusevski scored. But with 85 minutes on the clock in a game that everyone would have had us down to win, Bannell into the area, onto Lyle Foster, and he rifled home to make it 3-2. Thankfully though, with only 30 seconds left of the game in added time, Kulusevski secured his hat-trick, another great finish, and it was level. Into extra time we went, and it was a very, very close encounter. We did not want to be the team to lose this match, but unfortunately, Manuel Benson scored a hat-trick, and we lost the Carabao Cup final to Scott Parker's Burnley, who is still in the Championship at this stage, and that was a real loss, and probably the most Spurs thing to have happened in this whole rebuild so far. Now, outside of that, it was a good season though, I will say. The Carabao Cup, we at least made the final. Let's forget about who we lost it to. The FA Cup, we'll forget losing to Cardiff City, and the Champions League, we did make the knockouts, only to lose to Liverpool, but in the league itself, we finished way above them. In fact, it was the first year they haven't won the title. We got 82 points, and we're now 8 points away from the eventual winners, which unfortunately in this save was Arsenal, now managed by Jurgen Klopp. They have had a very good season, whilst Enzo Maresca's Chelsea and Pep Guardiola's Man City aren't far behind. Arne Slot, though, has lost his job as Liverpool manager, but yeah, I feel like we're going in the right way with this Spurs team, slowly progressing up the league. We just really need to start getting there, because these other clubs are getting better as well, and that's one thing that people forget in these rebuilds. We're improving, so are those other teams, but it was a great year for some of our newer signings. Samuel Omoroidian with 45 goals and 50 appearances in all comps. We have Harry Kane back now at Spurs, basically, in Omoroidian. 10 goals for Kulusevski, Zubamendi scored 3, Brennan Johnson with 15 in a great year for him, whilst Yeremy Pino was excellent and well worth a transfer fee for us in this season. But yeah, 2 years to go. I want to win the Premier League. I don't want to be the manager that has, 5 years at Spurs and still doesn't win it. We've got £54 million to do so, 270 grand the wages. Let's go again, get the right players, get the bad ones out the door, and start making this side a real competitor as we close in on the end of this rebuild. And if you're still watching at this point, you're obviously enjoying yourself, or you've just, fell asleep and forgot to click off. Either way, if you are awake, make sure you hit that like button for me. It really does help. But let's go and check out the one signing that we bought this year. I was pretty tame with what I did, although it's a very good player. First, though, a few players left before we made that happen. Alejo Veliz, a young player at the club who I had no real faith in, has been sold to Osasuna for £1 million. Ashley Phillips, after a few loans away, does get his move. Unfortunately, it's only for £2 million to West Ham. That's because his contract was running low and it was time to move him on. And then Kevin Danzo has also moved on permanently to go and sign for El Attifaq out in Saudi Arabia for 16 million quid, having signed a couple years back for 20 mil, and that's because the emergence of Luka Vuskovic in our first team means that Danzo won't be needed anymore. Who is the main man coming in though? Well, we have managed to secure the signature of Gavi, another world-class elite talent joining a Spurs team. I think we've done really well with that in this window, not buying, loads of rubbish, but focusing really on quality in this whole save, not just this window. But we paid £85 million for the Barcelona man, who is of course going to run our midfield for years to come. And this team now is actually stacked, and I think we've got probably one of the best midfields in the league and arguably one of the best defences and the best attack. So yeah, we should be out there winning trophies by now. Our defence hasn't changed that much since the start, but our midfield and attack looks entirely different with world-class players in a few areas now. Our striker is world-class, Pino is world-class, Kulusevski world-class, Sarr and Gavi. I mean, Sarr is absolutely amazing in this save, and as you can see, I'm not making it up, he is a world-class midfielder, considered one of the best in the world in that position for us. So I'm very happy with this Spurs team we've built. I feel like this is the year we really need to go for it. The board expect top 4 as a minimum. The game, though, predicts 5th place and 11-1 odds of winning the title. We're going to try and beat those odds and win a trophy. Only time will tell. If we're going to do it, though, we've only 2 years left. And in our 4th season, I feel like we're the first manager in a long time to start shedding away that Spursy title that the club gets every now and then, because after our disappointment last season against Burnley in the Carabao Cup final, I was making sure it did not happen again. Because this season, we faced off against Southampton in the Carabao Cup final, and Vuskovic helped us go 1-0 up, and eventually it turned into an absolute rout. We managed to beat the Saints 6-2 in the final, Omoroidian with a hat-trick in a brilliant game for him. And that was the Carabao Cup 1 and our second trophy in the cabinet here as Spurs manager, but it wasn't the only domestic cup we were doing well in, because having beat Manchester United in the semi-final, that set up a North London derby final against Arsenal, where we managed to win 1-0 for a brilliant finish. So, an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup, could this season get any better? Well, the answer would have been yes if we had just won one more game this season. Too many draws, we only had 4 losses, but we finished 3 points away from eventual winners Arsenal, who just get the trophy ahead of us. Jurgen Klopp's side just making it work, but yeah, We really could have had this done. This felt like the year we could have done it. 3 points away and so many draws. 1 goal in any of them games would have turned the tides and won us a trophy with the goal difference we had. But only 3 points away from the league leaders shows we are working well here at Spurs and we're on the right way up. I mean, the Doggy and Gavi had a brilliant season, both of them being some of the best creators in the league. Udogie has been probably the standout player in the Premier League this season outside of Erling Haaland. It was a great year for him and a great year for the club as a whole. Champions League wise, we made it into the quarterfinal, the furthest we've gone yet, as we only just lost to PSG in a 3-2 encounter. Not bad at all, although Eintracht Frankfurt eventually won the competition, so tell me how that's happened. God knows what's gone on there. But yes, I feel like in the last season we can win either the UCL or the Prem. I don't know if we'll do it, but I feel like we are set up to have a very good chance at it. Omoroidian was fantastic and he's got plenty of interest in him now. Barcelona apparently wanting him. Maddison and Pino were great too. 21 goals from Brennan Johnson, let's not forget him, who's been a great player for us in this rebuild. And now we head into our 5th and final season with another big £50 million budget. So if we want to sign a star or two, we might be able to make it work. Okay, this window has taken a twist. I felt like our team was ready to go in our 5th and final season, 1 addition or so, and we would win the title. But we've lost our best player. No, not Muric, but he does move on as well. He goes to Borussia Dortmund for a fee of 3 million. But unfortunately, we could not stand in the way of Samu Omoroidian wanting to leave the club. He has gone to sign for Barcelona in Spain, who's now valuing him at 260 mil. We got £117 million, rising to 142 for a player with not long left on his deal either. We made it work financially. We got a massive amount of money for him, but of course, we lose 50 goals a season nearly from him. So we had to spend money on improving the team for this last season, and we now had the cash to do it. So I've got a better left wing option to help compete slowly with Yeremy Pino as a deputy for him really, and Oscar Aranda, who signs from Porto for 11 mil, having done very well there, and our scouts liked him. We have a new backup keeper, an actual competition now for Lunin in Luis Jr., who is considered just as good. So the Brazilian, who is an international for his country and doing well for Villarreal for 26 million, is expecting to come here and compete for that #1 shirt. We unfortunately lost Pedro Porro recently as well at the end of his contract. I wanted to sign him onto one for ages, but I've seen something here that I never saw in FM before, where he was saying he doesn't want to sign a contract because he dislikes the club. For that reason, he ended up leaving us, and he's now a free agent who Newcastle are apparently trying to sign, but it meant we needed a new right back and replacing one of our best players. We did manage to find a decent one in the form of João Mario of FC Porto. We paid £45 million for him after some unreal seasons over in Portugal. It's now time for him to take the step up in that right flank spot. But Omoroidian leaving left a big space for a new attacker, and we have gone for Endrick. We've gone all out for the player that could be one of the world's best. The Brazilian, 22-year-old at this point, has signed for 75 mil from Real Madrid, which I actually think is a pretty good fee for what we're getting. The board weren't happy and thought we overspent, and he's nowhere near as good as Samu, but time will tell if he is going to do a good job for us up front. And considering this is what we finish as our final Spurs team, I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, Endrick, Pino and Kulusevski is a very good front three and a very strong midfield as well of Gavi, Zubamendi and Pape Matar Sarr. I mean, we have done a fantastic job here recruitment-wise. We just need to see it work out on the pitch. We have been upgrading some of the facilities and whatnot as well, but now in our final season, we want to win the league, and the game seems to think we've got an 11-1 odd chance of doing it. Now, I think we can definitely do better than that. Last season, we proved we had the chance to win the league if we just managed to get a few different results, so we're going to go for it in our 5th and final year and try and win Spurs that elusive Premier League title. And in our final season at Spurs, unfortunately, I may have aimed a little bit too high trying to win the Champions League, because we made it to the semi only for PSG to beat us 5-0. So clearly, we're not quite ready for that just yet, but once again, we had the chance of a trophy in the FA Cup. Our opponents on the day were Nottingham Forest, as we tried to secure our 3rd FA Cup in only 5 years as Spurs boss, and we got off to a flyer through Archie Gray's amazing strike. Forest pushed on though as time went on and managed to pull a goal back through Taiwo Awoni's deflected shot, but in the second half, we managed to secure the winner. Kulusevski into Endrick, who managed to lay the ball off, and Yeremy Pino scored, and that was our 3rd FA Cup final that we have won, to add on to our Carabao Cup that we've won also, and this season, we added one more. Because we smashed the Premier League, we managed to win with 87 points, 10 more than Liverpool in second place. Spurs finally win the Premier League. Endrick, as one of the best scorers in the division, we had a brilliant year and finally got over the line. I don't feel like it was our best year. We just did not really lose many games. The 3 that we lost are all games that, you know, you can kind of expect to lose away at the Big Six. I mean, we drew some that we definitely shouldn't have drawn, but overall, we have absolutely cruised to the title this year round, and there's some players to thank for it. Despite Endrick being considered a bad signing, the man has scored 38 goals, and clearly, he's not so bad after all, and I do have a good eye for a good player. 15 goals from Pino, 10 from Pape Mate Sarr, 10 from Brennan Johnson, 10 from Gavi as well, who has done so well, but still performs all the way down the list in this area, which goes to show how well some of our players were doing, that he's considered one of our worst. But yeah, what a great year. We finally get it done with Spurs. We're now more important to the club than Harry Kane was. Although, to be honest, I think that's really harsh to have Harry Kane as only favoured personnel. For me, he should be, you know, high on the icons list or legends. I'm not a Spurs fan, but the guy was amazing for him. Either way, though, that is our rebuild complete. We won Spurs the Premier League, and that might be the hardest challenge we've ever attempted on this channel. Sorry, Spurs fans. As a Chelsea fan, have to get a few digs in there. But thank you for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.